Alright, well, namaste. My name is Janapati Das, and I'm back again to read another wonderful story from the Krishna book stories. And let me offer my respects to you. And let's get into the hearing and chanting of Krishna's names. Haribol. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, we're continuing with our story in the Krishna book. Please accept my respects. We had been reading how Krishna and Balaram had entered Mathura and the certain situations that had happened with Krishna already and the cowherd boys. And of course we had the washerman, the laundryman or whatever he was, the tailor, who was approached by Krishna and Balaram and asked if he could give them some clothing, and he responded very arrogantly, like people often do when they come in contact with a devotee and they feel like they know better. Oftentimes, and it is a sickness of this material world that we all think we are the most important person on the planet and we are the most expert. And this is actually encouraged in today's social media platforms and internet and YouTube channels, where people are the expert. Everyone is the expert. Everyone can have their opinion, and their opinion is the best opinion, and everyone else's opinion can just go to hell. And in this case, of course, the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna, and his brother Balaram was giving an opportunity to this tailor to render service to Krishna and Balaram, and of course rejected it, being very arrogant. But of course the next two devotees basically shows how when you're given the opportunity to engage in service, what to do and how to engage in the service of the Supreme Lord or the devotee of the Supreme Lord. And so today we're going to read chapter 41, which is called the breaking of the bow in the sacrificial arena. So more exciting stories to go on here. After leaving the florist place, Krishna and Balaram saw a hunchbacked young woman carrying a dish of sandalwood pulp through the streets. Since Krishna is the reservoir of all pleasure, he wanted to make all his companions joyous by cutting a joke with the hunchback woman. Krishna is the greatest comedian. He's the greatest actor, greatest comedian, greatest comic, greatest everything. Krishna addressed her, "O tall young woman, who are you? Tell me, for whom are you carrying all this sandalwood pulp in your hand? I think you should offer the sandalwood to me, and if you do so, I am sure you will be fortunate." Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, and he knew everything about the hunchback. By his inquiry, he indicated that there was no use of serving a demon. One had better serve Krishna and Balaram and get rid of the results of sin. So, of course, Krishna here is once again giving an opportunity for this hunchback woman to engage in the service of Krishna and Balaram and to educate her about that her supplying the sandalwood to a demon like Kamsa was unnecessary, but she should use it in the service. And this is a good lesson for all of us when we come into true knowledge about spiritual life and the fact that the things that we own are not really ours to claim, but they are things that have been given to us temporarily for the service of Krishna. We can actually utilize them for the service of Krishna, which is a much better situation for us. The woman replied to Krishna, "My dear Shamasundar, dear beautiful dark boy, you may know that I am engaged as maidservant of Kamsa. I am supplying him pulp of sandalwood daily. The king is very pleased with me for supplying this nice thing, but now I see that there is no one who can better be served by this pulp of sandalwood than you two brothers." Being captivated by the beautiful features of Krishna and Balaram, their talking, their smiling, their glancing, and other activities, the hunchbacked woman began to smear the pulp of sandalwood over their bodies with great satisfaction and devotion. The two transcendental beggars, Krishna and Balaram, were naturally beautiful and had beautiful complexions, and they were nicely dressed in colorful garments The upper portions of their bodies were already very attractive, and when the hunchback woman smeared their bodies with sandalwood pulp, they looked even more beautiful. Krishna was very pleased by this service, and he began to consider how to reward her. In other words, in order to draw the attention of the Lord, the Krishna-conscious devotee has to serve him in great love and devotion. Krishna cannot be pleased by any action other than transcendental loving service unto him. Thinking like this, Lord Krishna pressed the feet of the hunchback woman with his toes, and capturing her cheeks with his fingers, gave her a jerk in order to make her straight. At once the hunchback woman looked like a very beautiful straight girl with broad hips, thin waist, and very nice, well-shaped breasts. Since Krishna was pleased with the service of the hunchback woman, and since she was touched by Krishna's hands, she became the most beautiful girl among women. This incident shows that by serving Krishna, the devotee immediately becomes elevated to the most exalted position. In all respects, devotional service is so potent that anyone who takes to it becomes qualified with all godly qualities. Krishna was attracted to the hunchback woman not for her beauty, but for her service. As soon as she rendered service, she immediately became the most beautiful woman. A Krishna-conscious person does not have to be qualified or beautiful. After becoming Krishna-conscious and rendering service unto Krishna, he becomes very qualified and beautiful. When the woman was turned by Krishna's favor into an exquisitely beautiful young girl, she naturally felt very much obliged to Krishna, and she was also attracted by his beauty. Without hesitation, she caught the rear part of his cloth and began to snatch it. She smiled flirtatiously and admitted that she was agitated by lusty desires. She forgot that she was on the street and before the elder brother of Krishna and his friends. She frankly proposed to Krishna, "My dear hero, I cannot leave you in this way. You must come to my place. I am already very much attracted to your beauty, so I must receive you well, for you are the best among males. You must also be very kind upon me." In plain words, she proposed that Krishna come to her home and satisfy her lusty desires. Krishna, of course, felt a little bit embarrassed in front of his elder brother Balaram, but he knew that the girl was simple and attracted. Therefore, he simply smiled at her words. Looking towards his coward boyfriends, and he replied to the girl, my dear beautiful girl, I am very much pleased by your invitation, and I must come to your home after finishing my other business here. Such a beautiful girl like you is the only means of solace for a person like me, for I am away from home and not married. Certainly, as a suitable girlfriend, you can give us relief from all kinds of mental agitation. Krishna satisfied the girl in this way with sweet words. Leaving her there, he began to proceed down the street of the marketplace, where the citizens were prepared to receive him with various kinds of presentations, especially betel nuts, flowers, and sandalwood. The mercantile men in the market worshipped Krishna and Balaram with great respect. When Krishna was passing through the street, all the women in the surrounding houses came to see him, and some of the younger ones almost fainted, being captivated by his beauty. Their hair and tight dresses loosened, and they forgot where they were standing. Krishna next inquired from the citizens as to the location of the place of sacrifice. Kamsa had arranged for a sacrifice called Dhanur Yajna, and to designate this particular sacrifice, he had placed a big bow near the sacrificial altar. The bow was very big and wonderful and resembled the rainbow in the sky. Within the sacrificial arena, the bow was protected by many constables and watchmen engaged by King Kamsa. As Krishna and Balaram approached the bow, they were warned not to go near, but Krishna ignored this warning. He forcibly went up and immediately took the big bow in his left hand. After stringing the bow in the presence of the crowd, he drew it and broke it at the middle into two parts, exactly as an elephant breaks sugarcane in the field. Everyone present appreciated Krishna's power. The sound of the bow cracking filled both sky and land and was heard by Kamsa. When Kamsa heard what was happening, he began to fear for his life. The caretaker of the bow, who was standing by watching, became very angry. He ordered his men to take up weapons, and he began to rush towards Krishna, shouting, "Arrest him! Kill him! Kill him!" Krishna and Balaram were surrounded. When they saw the threatening motions of the guards, they became angry, and taking up the 2 pieces of the broken bow, they began to beat off all the caretaker's men. While this turmoil was going on, Kamsa sent a small group of troops to assist the caretakers, but both Krishna and Balaram fought with them and also killed them. After this, Krishna did not proceed further into the sacrificial arena, but went out the gate and proceeded towards their resting camp. Along the way, he visited various places in Mathura city with great delight. Seeing the activities and wonderful prowess of Krishna, all the citizens of Mathura began to consider the 2 brothers to be demigods who had come down to Mathura, and they all looked upon them with great astonishment. The 2 brothers strolled carefree in the street, not caring for the law and order of Kamsa. When evening came, Krishna and Balaram, with their coward boyfriends, went to the outskirts of the city where all their cars were assembled. Thus Krishna and Balaram gave some preliminary hints of their arrival to Kamsa, and he could understand what severe type of danger was awaiting him the next day in the sacrificial arena. When Krishna and Balaram were going from Vrindavan to Mathura, the inhabitants of Vrindavan had imagined the great fortune of the citizens of Mathura in being able to see the wonderful beauty of Krishna, who is worshipped by his pure devotees as well as the goddess of fortune. The fantasies of the residents of Vrindavan were actually realized, for the citizens of Mathura became fully satisfied by seeing Krishna. When Krishna returned to his camp, he was taken care of by servants who washed his lotus feet, gave him a nice seat, and offered him milk and palatable dishes of foodstuffs. After taking supper and thinking of the next day's program, he very peacefully began to take rest. Thus he passed the night there. On the other side, when Kamsa came to understand about the breaking of his wonderful bow and the killing of the caretaker and soldiers by Krishna, he could partially realize the power of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He could realize that the 8th son of Devaki had appeared, and now his death was imminent. Thinking of his imminent death, he could not rest the entire night. He began to have many inauspicious visions, and he could understand that both Krishna and Balaram, who had approached the precincts of the city, were his messengers of death. Kamsa began to see various kinds of inauspicious signs, both awake and dreaming. When he looked in the mirror, he could not see his head, although the head was actually present. He could see the luminaries in the sky in double, although there was only one set factually. He began to see holes in his shadow, and he could hear a high buzzing sound within his ears. All the trees before him appeared to be made of gold, and he could not see his own footprints in dust or muddy clay. In dream, he saw various kinds of ghosts being carried in a carriage drawn by donkeys. He also dreamed that someone gave him poison and he was drinking it. He dreamed also that he was going naked with a garland of flowers and was smearing oil all over his body. Thus, as Kamsa saw various signs of death, both awake and sleeping, he could understand that death was certain, and thus in great anxiety he could not rest that night. Just after the night expired, he busily arranged for the wrestling match. The wrestling arena was nicely cleansed and decorated with flags, festoons, and flowers, and the match was announced by the beating of kettle drums. The platform appeared very beautiful due to streamers and flags. Different types of galleries were arranged for respectable persons, kings, brahmanas, and kshatriyas. The various kings had reserved thrones, and others had arranged seats also. Kamsa finally arrived, accompanied by various ministers and secretaries, and he sat on the raised platform especially meant for him. Unfortunately, although he was sitting in the center of all governing executive heads, his heart was palpitating in the fear of death. Cruel death evidently does not care even for a person as powerful as Kamsa. When death comes, it does not care for anyone's exalted position. So this is very true about, these dictators. Oftentimes are people who are very, Mao or Kim Jong-un from North Korea, and all these dictators. They come and they go, and when they're in power, they're playing themselves off to be like gods descended onto the earth. But then when death comes around, they're afraid. They're just scared, and they're also always in fear of people killing them or stabbing them in the back or poisoning them or trying to get rid of them or overthrowing their power. So it's this facade of this power, of this arrogance, of thinking that they will be ruling forever. When everything was complete, the wrestlers who were who were to exhibit their skills before the assembly walked into the arena. They were decorated with bright ornaments and dress. Some of the famous wrestlers were Chanura, Mushtika, Shala, Kudta, and Toshala. Being enlivened by the musical concert, they passed through with great alacrity. All the respectable coward men came from Vrindavan, headed by Nanda, were also welcomed by Kamsa. After presenting Kamsa with the milk products they had brought with them, the coward men took their respective seats by the side of the king on a platform especially meant for them. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 41st chapter of Krishna, the breaking of the bow in the sacrificial arena. Getting into the story here. Well, I think we'll read a little bit more. Chapter 42, the killing of the elephant Kuvalayapida. After taking their baths and finishing all other morning duties, Krishna and Balaram could hear the beating of the kettle drums in the wrestling camp. They immediately prepared themselves to proceed to the spot to see the fun. When Krishna and Balaram reached the gate of the wrestling camp, they saw a big elephant in the name Kuvalayapida being tended by a caretaker. The caretaker was deliberately blocking their entrance by keeping the elephant in front of the gateway. Krishna could understand the purpose of the caretaker, and he prepared himself by tightening his dress before combating the elephant. He began to address the caretaker in a very grave voice, as resounding as a cloud. "You miscreant caretaker, give way and let me pass through the gate. If you block my way, I shall send you and your elephant to the house of death personified." The caretaker, being thus insulted by Krishna, became very angry, and in order to challenge Krishna, as was previously planned, he provoked the elephant to attack. So this is all planned by King Kamsa, right? The elephant then moved before Krishna like inevitable death. It rushed towards him and tried to catch him with its trunk, but Krishna very dexterously moved behind the elephant. Being able to see only to the end of its nose, the elephant could not see Krishna hiding behind its legs, but it tried to capture him with its trunk. Krishna again very quickly escaped capture, and he again ran behind the elephant and caught its tail. Holding the elephant by its tail, Krishna began to pull it, and with very great strength he dragged it for at least 25 yards, just as Garuda drags an insignificant snake. Krishna pulled the elephant from this side to that, from right to left, just as he used to pull the tail of a calf in his childhood. After this, Krishna went in front of the elephant and gave it a strong slap. He then slipped away from the elephant's view and ran to its back. Then, falling down on the ground, Krishna placed himself in front of the elephant's two legs and caused it to trip and fall. Krishna immediately got up, but the elephant, thinking that he was still lying down, tried to push an ivory tusk through the body of Krishna by forcibly stabbing it into the ground. Although the elephant was harassed and angry, the caretaker riding on its head tried to provoke it further. The elephant then rushed madly towards Krishna. As soon as it came within reach, Krishna caught hold of the trunk and pulled the elephant down. When the elephant and caretaker fell, Krishna jumped on the elephant's back and broke it and killed the caretaker also. After killing the elephant, Krishna took an ivory tusk on his shoulder. Decorated with drops of perspiration and sprinkled with the blood of the elephant, he felt very blissful, and thus he began to proceed towards the wrestling camp. Lord Balaram took the other tusk of the elephant on his shoulder. Accompanied by their cowherd boyfriends, they entered the arena. When Krishna entered the wrestling arena with Balaram and their friends, he appeared differently to different people according to their different relationships or rasas with him. Krishna is the reservoir of all pleasure and all kinds of rasas, both favorable and unfavorable. So in the book Nectar of Devotion, Rasamrita Sindhu, by Rupa Goswami, there are a lot of different relationships described, which is a very good book if you can get a copy. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada translated and purported on it. It's actually a very important book for devotees of Krishna to read. It's called The Nectar of Devotion. So if you can get a copy of that and read it every day, it's very wonderful. He appeared to the wrestlers exactly like a thunderbolt. To people in general, he appeared as the most beautiful personality. To the females, he appeared to be the most attractive male, Cupid personified, and thus increased their lust. To coward men who were present there looked upon Krishna as their own kinsman, coming from the same village of Vrindavan. The Kshatriya kings who were present saw him as the strongest ruler. To the parents of Krishna, Nanda and Yashoda, he appeared to be the most loving child. To Kamsa, the king of Bhoja dynasty, he appeared to be death personified. So, that's actually really true too, because, this has been stated as when a living entity has a relationship with God in love, that relationship is like the mother tiger or the mother lion with the baby cub. And so the mother just picks up the baby and just carries him gently. And when we have to leave our body, Krishna gently takes us. But for the atheist or for the denier of Krishna, the same line is that those teeth are like the teeth that crush the deer or the different animals that the lion chases, and so that same Krishna appears as death personified, as it says here, the teeth that will crush time personified and death personified. So at the time of death, God comes to you as death, and it's a frightening and terrifying experience. But that same relationship that is had between the devotee is very gentle and wonderful. The coward men who were present, okay, so we read that. Okay, to the parents of Krishna, Nanda and Yashoda, he appeared to be the most loving child. To Kamsa, the king of the Bhoja dynasty, he appeared to be death personified. To the unintelligent, he appeared to be an incapable personality. That's another point there. It's like also the unintelligent is like, so even you see this sometimes today with atheists they just don't have very much intelligence. How can God do this? How can God do that? If God is all powerful, why this and why that? It's just really ignorant kind of thing. Can God create a stone that he cannot lift? These really stupid, speculative like mind games that they try to heist onto Krishna. To the yogis present, he appeared to be the super soul. To the members of the Vrishni dynasty, he appeared to be the most celebrated descendant. Thus appreciated differently by different kinds of men present, Krishna entered the wrestling arena with Balaram and his coward boyfriends. Having heard that Krishna had already killed the elephant Kavaliyapita, Kamsa knew beyond doubt that Krishna was formidable. He thus became very much afraid of him. Krishna and Balaram had long hands. They were beautifully dressed, and they were attractive to all the people assembled there. They were dressed as if they were going to act on a dramatic stage, and they drew the attention of all people. So, there's all these stories, demons in relationship to God. Even the story of Hiranyakashipu, who was a very powerful demon and subjugated all the demigods, powerful demigods, was consistently baffled by Krishna and his devotee Prahlad. He tried to kill Prahlad in so many ways, and he couldn't figure out why it was that here's this child, he keeps not being killed. Why is that? He doesn't do my will. Why is that? And then all the way up to the point where when Lord Nrsingadev bursts through the pillar and fights with Hiranyakashipu and then eventually kills him. There is this sort of underlying vein of fear, but you know, with fear comes ignorance as well. So in the case of demons. So I think we're gonna, this is a very exciting point where the wrestling match starts, and I would love to read it, but we're kind of running out of time, so I think I'm gonna save this for the next time. Thank you very much. Feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already on my channel, and share. Let's chant. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare you very much. That's all for tonight. And we will continue with our story next time. Thank you very much. Aloha.